Where do you find the soul of BMW? It's not just in a long legacy of performance, but in those who drive it. Lease the 2025 BMW i4 eDrive 40 for $499 per month.
Every day, over 1,000 accidents happen in California. Lives turned upside down in an instant. The aftermath of an accident can be overwhelming. Medical bills, lost wages, and emotional trauma. At Jacoby & Myers, we control the chaos, providing legal and emotional support so you can focus on healing. With over 50 years of experience and $2 billion recovered for our clients, we fight for the justice you deserve. Call Jacoby & Myers at 1-800-5-million today, because you deserve justice.
This is Kcal News Mornings.
Good morning. Today is Tuesday, June 24th. I'm Jamie Yukas. President Trump is scolding Israel and Iran as the ceasefire deal comes a little shaky this morning. Where the agreement stands right now.
And I'm Shiva Turk. Mixed reaction from the Iranian community here about the conflict in the Middle East.
And good morning to you. Meteorologist Paul Deanna with your forecast. Low clouds are back. Low clouds are widespread this morning. Today is likely to be the cloudiest day of the week and the coolest day of the week. That said, we will get sunshine this afternoon and a pretty significant warm up take shape tomorrow. Now, today's not going to be cold. Inland Empire, afternoon sunshine, high of 84. LA back up to 76, beaches 73, and the high desert 90 degrees. The heat returns tomorrow. We'll talk about that coming up. Let's see how traffic is doing this morning. Here's Kalina. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. So I have two issues as you try to make your way into the Inland Empire or in the Inland Empire. This is the first one, Sigler. It's a deadly crash. It's unfortunate here, 10 East before Monte Vista. The two right lanes are blocked off. The backup continues to build. This is a live look from the ground. Our photographer giving us a shot here. You can see CHP still on scene. We also have the coroner on scene as well, and the fire department too. This has been here for a while already. That backup is building now to 29 minutes from White Avenue to Monte Vista. And then we have westbound delays as well. But you can take the 60 East to get around it. And depending on where you need to go, you could take the 210 East. But I do have a problem just before that 57 or right around that 57. It's an overturned box truck eastbound 210 at that southbound 57 with the transition road blocked off. But if you can get access to the 210 in a different spot, you can still take that to avoid the 10 freeway. And coming up, I'll take you out to LA and also have a look at Orange County in just a bit. Shiva and Jamie, back to you.
All right, thank you, Kalina. Some developing news in the Middle East conflict. A fragile ceasefire between Israel and Iran is apparently holding this morning after both sides were accused of violating it.
The violations went down hours after the White House announced that ceasefire. Kcal News anchor Chris Holmstrom joins us now with what changed overnight, and there's been a flurry of activity on social media from the president.
Absolutely. So here's the deal. So President Trump said he had to intervene to save the temporary truce, but he had some harsh words for Israel while suggesting Iran may have fired on the country by mistake. Yesterday afternoon, our time, the White House had announced the ceasefire after Iran fired missiles at U.S. air bases in Qatar and Iraq. That was in retaliation for the U.S. bombing 3 Iranian nuclear sites over the weekend. After Israel approved the ceasefire, it ordered a new attack on Tehran after accusing the Islamic country of violating it. It's an accusation Iran denied. Before going to the NATO summit, the president implied that Israel may have jumped the gun.
But I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down.
Then the president posted this on his Truth Social site. After a conversation with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Also, at one point, Trump used an expletive to describe the tension between the two countries, saying they've been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the bleep they're doing. Well, now the world's watching and waiting to see if the fragile ceasefire holds. But of course, we'll have to wait and see. Jamie and Sheba, we'll send it back to you.
Yes, every moment. It's moment by moment. Chris, thank you. Joining us now is Dr. Eric Laub, an associate professor of politics and international relations at Florida International University. Thank you so much for being with us again this morning.
Thanks for having me.
You know, I do really think it's minute by minute as we're watching some of this unfold. You see the president continuing to post on social media just a few minutes ago, Iran will never rebuild their nuclear facilities. What do you think needs to happen to make sure the ceasefire is sustainable for the long run?
Well, it's certainly very challenging because Israel and Iran have been hostile adversaries for decades now, and tensions were really ratcheted up since 2023 with the Gaza war, and even more recently, as we've seen. And so there's going to be challenges in terms, and there's cautious optimism whether there could be a sustainable ceasefire. But right now, when we're looking at things in the immediate terms, the first step was for President Trump to really assert himself, and we saw him as there was an exchange through the night and into the morning, really step up on social media and even make direct phone calls to Prime Minister Netanyahu to pressure Israel to stand down as a first step to trying to keep this tenuous and fragile ceasefire in place right now in the short term.
Is there any sense of whether or not they will be honoring that ceasefire from here? And if it is broken again, do you see the president stepping up more attacks on them?
Well, it's hard to make predictions in such a tenuous and uncertain time, but I think it would depend on how the ceasefire would be violated if it were in the future. I think if Iran violates the ceasefire, then this would give license for President Trump to perhaps get involved, as we saw the United States get involved directly in the conflict over the weekend. If Israel were to violate it, it would really complicate things, given that the United States and Israel are allies. And, you know, we've already seen anger by President Trump very clearly today about Israel potentially violating it in recent moments. And so one point of leverage that President Trump could use is reminding Israel that it does outsource part of its air defense to protect its airspace against Iranian missiles and drones, as perhaps a point of leverage to convince the Israelis to not escalate further.
I do want to talk about that anger because I do think you have to look at the timing of that specifically. He doesn't want to appear weak going into the NATO summit, right? And if this had all fallen apart before he even arrives at the summit, where he's looking for, you know, praise over what has transpired over the last 48 hours, that would fuel somebody like President Trump's anger.
Well, for sure. And very quickly, we've seen President Trump in just a matter of days transition from a wartime hawkish president to now a self-proclaimed peacemaker. And if his very own, arguably the United States' closest ally, does not abide by the terms of his own very own ceasefire agreement, then this really puts President Trump in a tenuous position and undermines his legitimacy as U.S. president. So particularly, as you said, heading into the NATO summit in the Netherlands, where he's trying to show that he can effectively stand by allies and counter adversaries and get some type of foreign policy victory.
And at this point, who do you feel like is closest to victory? Who's holding the power? Because Israel, of course, bragging about its attacks on Iran, Iran striking back yesterday, and then President